What makes a parent finally believe their child chose the right partner? As a mother, I had learned not to get my hopes up when it came to my daughter Lily's boyfriends. Over the years, she had brought home a long list of unforgettable personalities, none of them in a good way. There was the so-called musician who treated basic hygiene like an optional concept, a philosophy student who turned Thanksgiving dinner into a debate about my career choices, and the trust fund guy who genuinely couldn't understand why we didn't own a vacation house. So when Lily casually mentioned she was bringing home someone named James for Christmas, I didn't feel excitement. I felt preparation. On the phone, she insisted, "He's different, Mom." I had heard that line before. Then came a snowy December evening, and James arrived at our doorstep holding a simple bouquet of flowers. He wasn't flashy. No exaggerated confidence, no attempt to dominate the room, just normal, almost suspiciously normal. "Lovely to meet you, Mrs. Chen," he said, politely offering the flowers. Lily told me lilies are your favorite. That small detail caught me off guard. None of her previous boyfriends had ever bothered to remember anything about me. Dinner followed, and I watched him carefully. But instead of showing off, he asked questions, real ones, about my husband's woodworking projects, about my community garden, and without being asked, he quietly helped clear the table afterward. It unsettled me in a strange way. Not because he did anything wrong, but because I couldn't find anything wrong with him. Still, I stayed cautious. Charm can be practiced, and I had seen enough to know appearances rarely tell the whole story. 3 days into their visit, everything changed. It was around 2 a.m., and I was in the kitchen, unable to sleep because of a painful arthritis flare-up. I tried to stay quiet, not wanting anyone to see me struggling in an old bathrobe. Then I heard footsteps. I turned, slightly startled, expecting awkward silence or retreat. Instead, it was James. He paused, just as surprised as I was. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to intrude." I tried to brush it off. "Just my joints acting up again." He hesitated for a moment, then asked gently, "Would you mind if I sit with you? My mom used to have rheumatoid arthritis. I'd stay up with her on nights like this." That simple question changed the atmosphere completely. We sat together at the kitchen table in quiet conversation. No forced politeness. No performance. Just two people talking softly in the middle of a sleepless night. He told me about growing up with a single mother who worked 2 jobs while living with constant pain. How as a child, he learned to cook at 9 years old because standing too long was too difficult for her. Then, almost hesitantly, he added something he hadn't told Lily. He had been saving money not for a proposal ring. He said they weren't ready for that step yet. Instead, he was quietly building a fund to help pay off her student loans because he knew they kept her awake at night. He said it so casually, like it wasn't a big deal at all. But it was. "That's incredibly thoughtful," I told him honestly. He just shrugged slightly. "My mom always said love isn't about big gestures. It's about noticing what hurts and trying to ease it." The next morning, I found a heating pad placed neatly by my bed with a small note. "This helped my mom. I thought it might help you too." That was the moment something in me softened. But the real test came on their last day. My husband was supposed to drive them to the airport, but the car refused to start. Cold weather had taken its toll. Before we could even call for help, James stepped forward. "I can fix it," he said immediately, already heading into the garage. No need to waste money on a tow truck. Despite the freezing air, he got to work without hesitation. Lily stood beside me as we watched him under the hood. "He's something else, isn't he?" she said quietly. I finally admitted the truth. Yes, he really is. An hour later, with frozen hands and grease on his sleeves, he managed to bring our old car back to life. As Lily wasn't looking, he slipped me a folded piece of paper. Inside were careful instructions for maintaining the car and the contact of a reliable mechanic nearby. "Just in case," he said softly. When they finally drove away, silence filled the driveway. My husband squeezed my hand. "That's the one," he said. And for the first time, I didn't argue, because I finally understood what my daughter meant. James wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was simply the kind of person who quietly shows up and makes life easier without asking for anything in return.